Hey everybody and welcome back. We're on the other side of UFC 322 and we saw last night two big championship fights, right? Valentina Shevchenko defended the flyweight crown and Jack Della Maddalena actually lost a decision and lost the welterweight title when Islam Makhachev moved up to challenge him for the belt. So let's go through the card, right? Let's talk about it because it's a pretty big card with a lot of events. First off, how about Dylan Dennis getting banned for life from all UFC events now because of the brawl that broke out? I was listening to the post-fight conference, I guess, or I saw a clip of Dana White talking, and he was saying how Dylan Dennis kept jumping around to different seats and stuff like that. Didn't realize he was kind of seated in the same row as all of Islam's friends, family, stuff like that, and of course, anytime those personalities start to butt heads, chaos seems to break out, right? So, huge brawl. Dylan Dennis escorted out. A lot of Habib's team kicked out. I saw they had to watch his fight from the locker room, but man, it is say what you want about Dylan Dennis, right? I'm not exactly a huge fan of the guy, whatever. I think he's kind of an asshole, actually, if you listen to his interviews and stuff. But say what you want about him. He is finding ways to keep himself relevant. That's what I'll say, right? He always seems to find a way to keep his name in the news somehow, despite doing absolutely nothing related to mixed martial arts, other than just talking shit on the internet and promising people he'll give $3,000 to anyone who likes to tweet if someone wins a fight. It's crazy that people still latch onto it, and he still is able to get his face in front of the public so often, but he does. Anyway, banned for life from UFC events. Maybe we'll hear a little bit less from him, but pretty interesting event taking place, not on the card, but at the card, right? And then we get into the prelims. We saw Mateus Camillo Slava Borchev via unanimous decision. Suzurkayev stayed undefeated and picked up a big win over Makhaniko. Fatima Klein beat up on Angela Hill. Angela Hill has so many fights, it's insane. I think she's first all time for women in octagon time, but her record it's crazy. This is the problem with the women's division, and I'm not a hater, right? I thought last night the fight wasn't exactly exciting the way it played out, but I thought the matchup was very intriguing, and Zhang Weili has been in exciting fights. If you look at her fight against Joanna, even when she lost to Rose, she's been in exciting fights. And I thought that fight had potential to be exciting, but the problem with the women's division is that when you have somebody ranked inside the top 15 and their record is nearly 500. Angela Hill's record is 18-16, 18 wins, 16 losses. That. It's nothing against Angela Hill. I think she's a great martial artist. She's done a lot, you know what I mean, and for the sport, all that good stuff. I appreciate Angela Hill. I'm just saying it's a problem when you're ranked number 12 and your record is near 500 and you have over 30 professional fights. That's a problem, right? And it speaks to the depth of talent in the women's divisions. I just think it's kind of taken a while for it to come in. And when you see girls like Zhang Weili or Joanna or Rose, they really seem to they're leagues above all the other competition. Right now, we're starting to see a little bit, we saw Erin Blanchfield versus Tracy Cortez last night. We can talk about that now. She finished her off via rear naked choke. You're starting to see some of these, the top fives and you're starting to see that talent creep up into there. Manon Foyot is another good example, right? There's a lot of good challengers and they're competitive amongst themselves, but there's no one really challenging for those titles right now. That's why we had Weili moving up to flyweight, right? It's why no one was really left for Weili to fight, so she had to move up. No one left for Valentina. It makes sense. But I'm just saying there's it's going to take a little bit for that talent to fill in. We're in the men's divisions, man. You're in the top 15. You're usually making some noise, or you're an older guy on your way out, but your record's normally not 15-15. You know what I'm saying? Nothing against Angela Hill. I'm just saying it speaks to the lack of depth in the women's divisions. Anyway, Pat Sabatini picked up a big win over Chepe Mariscal. I actually did not get to see this fight. I'm going to have to watch this one back. But this was a fight I was looking forward to just because Mariscal his nickname's Machine Gun for a reason, right? He puts a pace on you, great cardio, great martial artist all around, but I'm guessing Sabatini was able to wrestle him. His wrestling is next level. But I got to actually go back and watch that one when we're done here. Kyle Dawkins hit Gerald Meerschaert with a Darsh. Actually, I mean, like, he did hit him with the darts, don't get me wrong, but it was really the punch that he landed on him that led to that opening, right? Dawkins knocked him down, got on top of him, sought the submission out pretty quickly, but a big win for Dawkins to get back on track. Not back on track, stay on track after getting back on track, right? So big deal for him. Ethan Ewing picked up a big win over Malcolm Wellmaker. Aaron Blanchfield, we just talked about it, submitted Tracy Cortez. Gregory Rodriguez versus Roman Kopylov, another fight that I missed. I got to watch, I've got 2 or 3 fights that I have to watch back on this, right? It's actually the Ewing fight I got to watch back. Rodriguez versus Kopylov I got to go watch. And Bo Nickel versus Vieira I just watched this morning, so I got to see that one. And Bo Nickel, man, you got to be careful. It was too much too soon against a Ritter, right? I think people were sleeping on how good DeRitter really was, but you got to think, man, he's a 2-division champion coming over from 1. He was a lot. Bo Nickel's a good sized middleweight. Like, if you look last night, I thought he was quite a bit bigger than Vieira, and I feel like DeRitter is bigger yet than Nickel. So I don't know. I feel like Nickel, though, had an impressive performance last night, big win. And when you're a wrestler and you're putting guys out cold like that, like, he's knocked people out before, he's finished people off his back. Don't start sleeping on Bo Nickel just yet. It happens to a lot of guys. Where even an example I was thinking of recently, kind of I got like an esoteric pick here, but like Montel Jackson versus Davison Figueiredo. Even guys who are super talented and have been knocking guys out, finishing them, they look like they're going to steamroll out of the bantamweight division. When you run into those guys that are veterans and they just have a lot of fight experience, they find ways to win, right? And I think Nickel, he's only, 9-10 fights deep in his professional career right now, going up against a Ritter who's been doing this for a long time, right? So just a little too much too soon, and this was a big win for Nickel to get back on track and to remind everyone that he's still here, right? I think that's kind of what flipping the double bird to the crowd was last night. Like, I'm still here, but I don't know. He's kind of like polarizing himself a little bit, right? And whatever, sometimes that works. It's just what path do you want to take forward with your career? But at the end of the day, I don't think he's thinking about that. I think he's just being himself, and love him or hate him, it's going to get him attention, right? Like, people are always going to want to see Nickel lose because he's, the golden boy. He's got all this hype. They want to see it get shot down, and then you're going to have fans of him. So, I don't know. I like that he's just out there being himself, and it did feel like he was disrespected after that last fight, and people weren't appreciating how good of an opponent DeRitter was and how tough of a matchup that was for Nickel. And I think that he kind of was venting some of that frustration out to the crowd last night, obviously. All right, let's get on to the main card because there's a lot to talk about on this main card and a lot of implications, in particular for the welterweight division. Very first fight, Benoit Saint-Denis knocked out Beneil Dariush within 20 seconds. I think 16 seconds was the official time. I don't know. This is how I saw that fight. Don't get me wrong. I got every single fight on this card wrong except for this one. But this is kind of how I saw this one going. I just feel like Saint-Denis right now, he's riding. I mean, he lost 2 fights in a row, but now he seems to be back on track, and he's riding some of that momentum again. And he's powerful. He's explosive. He's fast. And it's not that Dariush can't hurt you or that he's not capable of packing power. I just didn't feel that he had that same sort of like speed and explosiveness that Saint-Denis has. And Saint-Denis is dangerous. He's an elite guy at 155. It's not like he's a prospect that had the power to knock him out, and you're like, oh, he's so... No, He's been conditioned into this weight class now, and he's been through some adversity, and I think he showed last night that he's ready for, he's ready for that top 5 type competition in the lightweight division. Benoit Saint-Denis is a problem still. He's a really good grappler. He has really good strikes. He's got a really good, it's always good to have a weapon, right? And Saint-Denis has that left kick that he throws to the body. He rips it over and over and over. So he's dangerous, man. Very talented. I think he's very driven. Obviously was in... I forget what branch. He was in the military for France though, right? So you guys can say what you want about the French, but Saint-Denis the man. And it was a big win for him last night. I kind of saw the fight going this way. I thought it might get ended early or go to decision, right? But it just felt like if Dariush was going to win, there was a lot to overcome. He really had to slow the fight down, maybe get into some grappling exchanges against Saint-Denis and kind of put that fire out early and start smothering it. But he was just never able to do that, and the fight ended quickly for him, unfortunately. Okay, this to me, the next 2 fights in the welterweight division, there's a lot of debate and speculation, I think, around which one was the most impressive. And let's talk about them both, right? Because you had Carlos Prates beat Leon Edwards, and then you had Michael Morales beat Sean Brady. Prates versus Edwards was very interesting to me going into this because I know that Prates can sting you, but Leon Edwards is a very gifted kickboxer. Like, if you look, you got to remember the thing about Leon too is Leon is okay with being in boring fights. He's in boring fights actually kind of a lot more than he's in exciting fights. And even the one against Usman, the ending was obviously one of the most spectacular knockouts ever. I think, in my opinion, that knockout over Usman, because of the implications, because he was down so big going into the 5th round, it was for the title, maybe the greatest knockout in UFC history, just because of the implications and the way it happened and the comeback, how much was on the line for Leon Edwards, how much his career changed after that. One of the greatest knockouts, maybe in my opinion, the greatest knockout ever. But Leon is okay with being boring and just implementing his game plan. And I really thought, I'm not a huge stats guy, but I thought that Prates was going to get hit a little bit more often because he's kind of willing to take risks. And because of that, he actually absorbs more strikes than he lands. Right. And some of that can be due to one single fight where he gets outstruck. Like maybe the Ian Gary fight kind of skewed those odds, but I just thought he puts his hands down. I thought that Leon would be able to surprise him in the striking department, but really Leon was never really able to get his range against Prates. And you saw in the first round, Leon did a great job of getting to the takedown. He took the back of Prates, and again, boring, maybe not exciting. Prates is making his faces and all this stuff, but that's the kind of fight that I thought Leon Edwards was going to be able to fight for 3 rounds. And boy, was I wrong. Because after all that happened in the first round, a couple things. I thought Leon should have been more aggressive about getting the fight up against the cage and taking away that power, right? Because it feels like Prates would have been a little less dangerous in the third than he is in the second. The later you get in the fight, the safer you probably are. Would have wore on his arms a little bit more. And you just proved to yourself in the first round that you could do it. Right. And I feel like Leon came out in the second and was a little bit more willing to stand and trade with him. Right. Like he was throwing his feints, moving around like Leon does, all this stuff. Right. And Prates just started dotting him up. And you could almost see that Prates was getting his timing. He started connecting on shots more often. He got in a rhythm. And man, when he landed that left hand, just the timing on it, the way Leon was moving back, he lifted him up off his feet. And then the follow-up shot. Whew, man. For a guy who was smoking cigarettes and just partying all the time, this is an impressive win. Like I said, it's not like Leon has had a couple of tough fights in a row, right? Like his fight against Bilal. When in the pre-fight building up to this, I saw an interview with Prates that said that Leon Edwards often gives up. And I don't think that's the case because we were just talking about the Usman fight, but even in the Bilal fight where he was losing, he ended up on top at the end of the fight, at the end of the 5th round, throwing elbows down at Bilal. It's I don't think Leon is a quitter. I just think he's boring sometimes. And I feel like in the Brady fight, he just got technically overwhelmed. Brady is just such a fucking good grappler that when he got him down, his pressure, his positioning, all that, I think it just wore on Leon. And he couldn't keep up with him technically, right? But I don't think he's a quitter. But for Prates, Leon's not over the hump. He's 34 years old. He's still dangerous. I still think he gives a lot of the welterweight division a lot of problems. But, man, Prates is just that fucking dude. He's that fucking good. He really is. I mean, that left hand that he landed, he's got so much power. He's fast. He's long. He's rangy. He's hard to deal with on the feet. He's confident. He comes from a great camp. I mean, he's got everything going for him to make a run at the title in the welterweight division right now. So, I mean, all eyes, it feels like, are on the welterweight division. There's a lot of young, exciting prospects at 170 pounds that I'm pretty fired up about right now, and I think the rest of the MMA fan base is fired up about. So that was a massive win for Prates, and I can't emphasize to you guys how impressive it is to finish Leon Edwards like that. People don't do that. And like I said, I don't think that Leon is over the hump. I just think Prates is really that guy. He's that fucking good. That's what I think. I think Prates had a brilliant performance. He started dotting him up on the feet, and he looked great. Another big fight in the welterweight division last night was between Michael Morales and Sean Brady. And we were talking a little bit ago about which one of these matchups or which one of these wins was more impressive. This one, to me. Michael Morales beating Sean Brady. I thought that the odds makers had this all fucked up. I thought Brady should have been like a minus 250 favorite. Brady is so fucking good on the ground. And you guys saw, like, if you watched the Neil Magny fight, like, Magny was able to get to the body lock. He got behind the elbows of Morales up against the cage. I mean, ultimately, we know how it went. But I thought if Sean Brady could just grab a hold of him, it would be a long night for Morales. And I know Morales has a jiu-jitsu background, judo, all that good stuff. But there's just levels to it, right? And Brady was never really able to get there. He couldn't land any shots on Morales. Morales was staying in that low stance and just picked him apart, man. It was a demolition. And this is, I did an interview with Josh Fremd, and he said something to me, and it made a lot of sense. And I mean, it's kind of obvious when you think about it, but timing is everything in this sport. And if you got to look at guys, the reason that John Jones is so successful and has had such a great career is because he's so selective about his opponents. He's fucking picky. Sean Brady was ranked on the John note, we're talking about a guy who called off basically a whole event when he had to fight Chael Sonnen on short notice. A fight that he most likely would have won anyway. But he's like, nah, fuck it, I'm not doing it on short notice. So Sean Brady is ranked number 2. And he's, after picking up a big win over a former champion in Leon Edwards, who was just coming off, he lost the title to Bilal, and then Sean Brady goes in and dominates him. And now he takes this fight against Michael Morales. He fought down in the rankings. Leon was still ranked number 4 last night. And now Sean is fighting number 8. The timing and the management of your career is so important. And I know that Brady's like, I'll fight anybody, but that's not, if you want to be a world champion and you want to hold the title for a long time, that's not the best approach. You got to push back a little bit and not let the UFC slip these guys, because it's a dangerous fight. When these guys get, like we were talking earlier, when these guys get into the top 10 or the top 15, they are dangerous. And Michael Morales is fucking dangerous. If I was Brady's manager or agent, I would be like, I felt like Brady should have won this fight. I feel like he could have won this fight going into it, that's how I felt. But as his manager or agent, I would have been like, man, no. I want a title eliminator next. Him beating Morales last night, it still leaves things up in the air about who's going to get the next title shot. Like, if he beats Morales, what does it do for you? Now you're like, okay, you beat the number 8 guy in the world, an up-and-coming prospect. You just fraud checked him. Big deal. Why do you deserve to fight Islam? You know, especially when you got Prates knocking out Edwards in emphatic fashion in the fight right before you. It's just not. I love Sean Brady. I'm a fucking Eagles fan. I'm from western part of the state, but I'm still from Pennsylvania. I was rooting for Sean Brady last night, but it doesn't change the fact that it was a bad career decision. He's got to be kicking himself a little bit right now. Like, fighting is more, it's just as much about managing your career and the timing of your fights and getting to, there's so many factors that go into it other than just being the better fighter on paper. And last night we saw that, and it was a risk for Sean Brady, and it was a risk that I didn't feel like had a lot of upside. And the downside now is that it's going to be a tough road back for him to get back into title contention, right? And speaking of, why not? Why is the next fight, why not? Michael Morales versus Carlos Prates. Winner gets a title shot. Why not? Fuck it. I think they're the 2 most exciting fighters in the division right now. However, we do got to keep in mind, we got Ian Gary fighting Bilal Muhammad this weekend, right? He's the co-main event. The headliner's obviously Arman versus Dan Hooker, but I don't know. Does Ian Gary make a statement? I mean, what Prates did and what Michael Morales did were both huge. And Ian Gary has a win over Prates, but the sport is about what have you done for me lately? So if Bilal goes out there and just kind of beats Ian up and is able to out-wrestle him, it's going to put these 2 guys right, in my opinion, in line for the title. And why not? You just beat number 2 and number 4. Let's run it. Let's do it. I think it's a great fight. It's a great matchup between 2 big, long, rangy guys, knockout artists, 2 guys that really seem to be coming into their own. They seem to be like in their prime or entering their prime. Let's get it going. Let's get this fight going. I think it's the most exciting fight to make in the division. And yeah, I will say, though, I'm not confident after the performance last night that anyone in the welterweight division is really going to challenge Islam right now. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a second. But of the 2 wins, if I had to pick one guy to fight for the title right now, it would be Morales. He's still undefeated. Prates does have that loss against Ian Gary. Morales just went in and knocked out the number 2 guy. And the number 2 guy that he just beat, Sean Brady, already beat Leon Edwards, right? So it's like, I think that the way things stack up, Morales would be closer to a title shot right now, in my opinion, than Prates. But I think it's a great fight for the title. Like I said, let's see what happens with Ian Gary this weekend, though. That's going to throw a wrench into things possibly. Welterweight is like, it's moved around a little bit. It used to be lightweight, but I feel like the lightweight fighters, a lot of that old guard is kind of changing, right? You got like a lot of it's like Gaethje, Poirier, Oliveira, all those guys have kind of retired. Khabib Khan, all those guys are kind of gone, right? Or barely hanging around. I mean, Oliveira just beat up on Gamrot, but still, they're all in that age range. And it feels like welterweight is where a lot of the young up-and-coming talent is, right? I think it's one of the more talented divisions and the most exciting in terms of prospect in the UFC right now. Okay, women's flyweight championship, Valentina Shevchenko versus Zhang Weili. I thought Weili was going to win this fight, and it wasn't even close. I mean, a complete and total shutout. And as soon as Valentina got the first takedown, I was like, why do I ever fucking pick against Valentina? Unless it's Amanda Nunes, you really shouldn't pick against Valentina Shevchenko. And last night really just showed how important strength and size and all of that really can be, because when she took Zhang Weili down, I said this in the lead up to the fight, Zhang Weili never settles for position on the bottom. She is always moving, working to get to butterfly hooks, and she just wasn't able to do that against Valentina. I mean, she did, I think, in the first round, but Valentina, man, just fucking... And Valentina dominated on the feet. I really thought Zhang Weili was going to have a better chance on the feet just because she moves a little bit more. And you guys saw in the fight, you know how Valentina fights. She's kind of more still, you know, always on the balls of her feet, but she's not moving a whole ton. She's kind of timing you as you come in. And I thought that Weili might be able to create more opportunities because she's the one moving more, and it just wasn't the case. Valentina just timed her, dotted her up, beat her up. It seemed like everything that Valentina landed hurt Weili, and Weili couldn't even touch her. I mean, this was one of the most dominant title defenses in recent memory, and man, it complete and total domination. And for Weili, I think you move back down and just keep battling people at 115, just keep reigning over that division, right? Because that's kind of what happened with Valentina when she fought Amanda, right? Like, you kind of realize, like, 125 is where I'm at. 135 is where Amanda's at. I kind of belong down here, and I think Weili just belongs right down there. The strength difference was just amazing. And it's funny because Weili's also coming off of a victory over Tatiana Suarez in a fight that a lot of people thought Suarez was going to win because of her wrestling pedigree. But I'll tell you what, Valentina, there's a difference in just being a pure wrestler and wrestling for MMA, and Valentina proved that last night too. And just her size and the way she was able to maintain position. I mean, don't get me wrong though, boring fucking fight. Boring fight. I don't care what anyone, boring, but effective. Like, when Valentina gets on top, she's very content to just control position, advance, try to pass your guard, and just hold you there. She's not really going to throw a ton of ground and pound down. I mean, she will, but it doesn't change the fact that it's dominant. It's just boring. But when Valentina would grab Weili, she would almost just like body lock her and then run her over. It was crazy. I mean, super impressive from Valentina Shevchenko, but I think that this fight opened up people's eyes as to how big of a jump it is from 115 to 125. Like, the increments are just different, right? Like, when Islam moves from 155 to 170, he's already cutting a lot of weight to get there, but just percentage-wise, it's not as big of a difference as if you jump from 115 to 125, right? Like, 155 to 170 is not as big of a jump percentage-wise. Anyway, let's move on to that fight now. Jack Della Maddalena against Islam Makhachev. This fight did not go how I thought it would go at all. I thought it would be very competitive. And also, let's talk about how good, for a second, some of the opponents that Islam has beat at lightweight, such as Dustin Poirier, Alexander Volkanovski. Like, how talented are those guys to put up the fights that they did against Islam Makhachev? Because he went out and completely ragdolled Maddalena. I mean, it was a complete performance too. It was the grappling. The grappling is obviously a massive difference maker anytime Islam gets in there. And he is always 2 or 3 steps ahead of you in that department. He's just so fucking good. But it was across the board he beat him up. I mean, I know Jack landed a couple shots, but it didn't really feel like anything. And anytime Jack would step in, kind of had a wide base. Islam just chewed that leg up over and over and over again. I mean, this was a complete performance from Islam Makhachev and just total domination. Islam is going to be a massive problem because I'm not seeing a lot of guys in welterweight that are going to be able to grapple like that. Jack Della Maddalena is a great boxer, and actually, if you watch back the fight, he's very defensively sound. He on the ground, right? It's different when a guy is always ahead of you. Always ahead of you. Like, there's not a whole lot you can do to Islam that he hasn't seen before. He just has a counter for everything, and he's always ready. And, man, it was one of the more impressive performances in a long time. And Islam he looked like the stronger fighter, right? And he looked like he belonged at 170 pounds. He looked like he'd been fighting there his whole life. And I think you can make the argument that's the best Islam has ever looked, because Jack is good on the ground. He is the bigger guy, right? And there were moments where I thought that Jack was going to be able to get out of those situations, and he just never was. Like in the first round when he took him down, there's like a little breakdown. I might put a longer one out on the whole fight, but on my YouTube, there's a moment where Jack kind of like looks like he's going to be able to stand up, and Islam just boom. He's always moving his hips around, circling, staying behind the elbows, just expert level grappling. And I don't know who can pose a threat to him right now. Another thing, a few things about this fight, right? I think that what you saw, like there was a lot of speculation. They were like, Jack was grimacing the whole time. I'm completely guessing. He might have been in severe pain, but the way he was moving on that leg, I think what you were seeing in Jack Della Madalena's face was frustration. And this happens to every single person that these Dagestanis fight. Islam and Habib, at least. Like, everyone they fight gets that look in their face, like, fuck, what am I going to do? It's like, it's hopelessness. They're dejected. You can tell that they don't have answers for this. And Jack's corner was trying to get him into it, but round after round, his confidence just waned more and more. And I think when Jack dropped the third, reality started to set in for him because he didn't have answers. And Islam had compromised his legs so much on the feet that Jack couldn't get any of the striking going. I think he knew going into the fourth and fifth rounds that his odds of landing the shot that would put Islam away were fewer and fewer. He just couldn't plan on that foot. He couldn't put weight on it. He couldn't throw power, couldn't get combos going. His footwork was everything from top to bottom. Islam just decimated him. It's fucking crazy. It's crazy how good he is. And man, a move up in weight like that and to do what he just did, how good is he? How good is Islam Makhachev? And like I said, how good is Alexander Volkanovski? How good is Dustin Poirier? These guys that can even mount some sort of defense, like any sort of defense against that onslaught. And even for Volk to be on top at the end of the fifth round, damn, man. I mean, it goes to speak to the heart of those guys and the talent of those guys. Like how talented of a champion Alexander Volkanovski really is. But hats off to Islam. He's the pound for pound best in the world right now. No doubt about it. 2-division champion. And like I said, a list of young contenders are going to be moving up trying to challenge him for the title. And I don't see any of them right now really beating him. I think he's the best in the world right now. And the fact that he just did this at 170, it kind of casts some doubt on whether the fight with him and Ilya will ever happen, you know? Because it's a big jump. Ilya's former 145. I mean, I would love to see the fight, but now I just worry. Ilya needed to get Islam when he was at 155. I worry that at 170, especially with after a defense or two, time to settle into that weight class, I worry that he's going to have an even bigger advantage against Ilia Topuria going into that fight. The fight was so much more intriguing to me at 155 because I really didn't know what would happen. And I think, too, that the reason you see guys like, speaking of Poirier, you know, Volkanovski, guys who have had success, I think the weight cut kills Islam. I think it was killing him to get down to 155. And I think that actually now that he's at 170, you're going to see an even better version of him, right? He's a big dude. And I think that sometimes I think that if Volk fought Islam at 170 pounds, right, it's a wash. I think he would just completely dominate him, even if it was the first fight. It's just different. The size is different, and you're dehydrating Islam to get him down to 155, and I think that's why you see Volk kind of have a chance. But if Volk had to move to 170 and fight Islam there, I mean, I don't even think it's close. The weight on fight night makes such a big difference, right? It's about and how much gets drained out of you. It's a completely different story when you're well hydrated than just a different size. It makes me nervous because Ilya's kind of in the same boat as Volk, right? Except Ilya's obviously 2-division champion, but wins at 145, gets the title at 155. He moves up there to fight. I just don't know if he can cross that final barrier and get to 170. I just think it's a totally different fight, and I think Islam is just a bigger guy, and I think that matters a lot, especially in that weight, that weight jump. I really think Topuria needs to get him at 155 somehow, and I don't think Islam's ever going back after last night. Why would you? Why would you just won the title? You're the best in the world at a division above. Why would you ever start cutting weight again? Feel good all the time. Be strong. That's what I'd do. Anyway, guys, that's going to wrap this one up. Like I said, there's a short little breakdown if you guys are interested, just looking at the first kind of grappling exchange of the fight between Madalena and Makhachev. It's on the channel now. Obviously, we got a big fight this weekend coming up between Arman Sarukian and Dan Hooker. Like I said, co-main event on that is Ian Gary and Bilal Muhammad. Even more implications for the welterweight division. So we'll get a breakdown on that rolled out this week. And otherwise, thank you guys for tuning in. Much appreciated. Enjoy your Sunday. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good shit. Go Birds. Later, everyone.